So I've been getting asked a lot whether or not the Nintendo Switch 2 is worth it to get on launch day. And the short answer to that is kind of no, but it's also yes, depending on who you are. So hey guys, it's Cyanize here, and today I kind of wanted to make a video tackling about how I feel in regards to whether or not you should buy a Nintendo Switch 2 or not. Obviously, like, I'm getting it. Like, you know, I'm a Nintendo guy. Like, I'm going to get the console. And I imagine a lot of you as well are also going to get the Nintendo Switch 2, purely for the fact that, hey, it doesn't really matter what they do. You'll still buy the next console and get excited for the next product anyway, because that's the horrible cycle that we're just in. But this video is mainly for the people who are still on the fence about whether or not they want to get a Switch 2, or even if they plan on getting it at all this year. Because if I'm being completely 100% objective and honest about it, there is not really much reason to get a Nintendo Switch 2 unless you're a certain kind of person. And I know a lot of you might be wondering like why I'm making a video like this. You know, shouldn't this be something that you guys like decide on your own? But I thought it was really important to make a video like this because of how insane the prices for stuff like this. And I kind of wanted to spend today like highlighting whether or not it is necessary to get a Switch 2, or if, you know, or if you could survive without the Switch 2 for like a year and still be fine. That's basically what we're tackling today. Starting from my perspective, however, if I wasn't a blind Nintendo fan, you know, and I wasn't getting the console anyway, would I get the Nintendo Switch 2 on day one? No. I'm gonna be completely honest, no. And there is a wide variety of reasons why I would not get the console right now. I mean, just for starters, I barely use my Nintendo Switch 1 as it is. Like, I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on it right now, and that is about the only thing I'm playing on it. And as for my backlog, I only have like Final Fantasy X and Dragon Quest 11. That's really about it on the console. Now, this isn't really a jab against Nintendo or anything, but I feel like a lot of the games that I do want to play it have ended up becoming exclusives mostly. Like, I do love third parties on the console, but a lot of the third parties that are coming out take way too long to get onto the Nintendo Switch. And when they do come out on the Nintendo Switch, they're either low quality, they don't function as intended for whatever reason. Now, I know that's a huge generalization, but let's be honest with ourselves here. Who wants to play Among Us on this dinky tablet when I could just get on Discord and play it on PC? Now, obviously, opening up that can of worms means that we're going to have a, you know, Nintendo versus PC debate here. And that's not the kind of video I want to make. What I'm trying to highlight is that the games that I personally want to play right now are not on the console. And the games that do go to the console right now, they just aren't up to par with the experiences I want to play when I play those games, if that makes sense. Now, a little bit of a nod going in favor of the Nintendo Switch 2 at least now with the Nintendo Switch 2, a lot of the third-party games that are going to go to the console are going to actually work this time around. They're going to actually function. We're seeing with games like Street Fighter 6 that they're going to be able to not only be on par with other console releases, but also, I forgot what it is specifically, but there's something about the game that runs better. But needless to say, the Nintendo Switch 2 can now play with the big boys, and that is something really cool that is going for the console. However, until I get my hands on it, and until we hear more third parties get announced, especially third parties like Marvel Rivals that are huge right now, that I think would do great on the Nintendo Switch 2, as of this moment, I am not really interested in the Nintendo Switch 2 right now, simply for the fact the library just does not interest me. And speaking of the library as well, we can also go to the first party titles, and especially the day one options that we have to choose from. Or should I say option? Now, in my opinion, as somebody who already owns Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the Brewster Course Pass, and is looking at this game after the Direct that just came out, I'm not really interested in this game. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be a great first launch title for the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know if it's going to necessarily show off all the capabilities that the console is going to be able to do, but at the very least, you're going to be able to have a brand new game that you can play with your friends day one. And I think that's what they wanted to get on the Switch 2 immediately out of the gate. But as of this moment, from what we know about the game right now, in my opinion, there is not really much reason to get this game. There's nothing about the new free roam mode that really interests me all that much. A lot of the new characters outside of the funny cow just aren't grabbing me that much either. And while the new mechanics like grinding on rails and jumping off from a boost look super cool and fun to do, I just don't think it's enough to grab me. And if you're one of those people who didn't get the Mario Kart World bundle, then you're looking at this game through an $80 price tag, and suddenly the game becomes a lot harder to stomach. And you know, I'll come out and say it, I'm kind of a hypocrite because I'm gonna end up buying this game because a lot of my friends want to play with me and make videos on it. But as of right now, as of me making this video, I think that if you want to get a Nintendo Switch 2 purely for this game, I think you should hold off. And hey, maybe I might end up being wrong, and maybe the game is super fun and has a lot of content. content in it. In which case, I think it's a great idea to just wait until a bunch of reviewers have it so they can tell you what it's like, rather than just buying it day one and being disappointed. I mean, you should definitely do that for a lot of games that come out nowadays, but especially for a game like Mario Kart World that doesn't seem to be doing that much right now, I would definitely hold out until other people get the game, and then you can hear from word of mouth if it's actually worth the purchase. That being said, however, if you avoid getting Mario Kart World but you still want a Nintendo Switch 2, luckily you do have some options. Obviously, you do have some of your third-party titles like Fortnite, Cyberpunk 2077, or Street Fighter 6, but I think it's also important to note that the console is going to be backwards compatible, which means you can use your entire library of already existing Nintendo Switch 1 games and play them on the Nintendo Switch 2, which then would beg the question, is it worth getting the Nintendo Switch 2 just to complete your backlog of Nintendo Switch 1 games if you still have them? Yes and no. Mostly no, because yeah, these games came out on the Nintendo Switch 1. If you can play them on the Nintendo Switch 1, there really is no reason. But I am saying yes, because a lot of Switch 1 games are going to be getting Switch 2 updates. Now, I'm sure Nintendo plans on doing more Nintendo Switch 2 versions down the line and/or performance updates, but we do have a hefty list of Nintendo Switch 1 games that are going to get performance updates day one of the Switch 2. And one of the ones that I'm going to personally highlight, and one of the games that I held off on getting all this time, now I haven't played the game myself yet, but I wanted to highlight this game because it's one of the games that ran kind of poorly on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it was definitely an optimization issue because The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening ran pretty well, all things considered. But for some reason, this game, according to a lot of video game reviewers that I watched, apparently this game would just dip a lot for no reason at all, which I think was especially jarring considering that it's using like a chibi art style, and it doesn't seem like it would be that taxing on the console, and yet the frame rate is super inconsistent. And I also think it's even more insane because the game isn't even like a locked 30 frames per second. It can go up to 60, but it can drop down to 20 from what game reviewers have said. I'm bringing all this up though because it's one of the selected few titles that's going to be getting a free performance update day one of the Nintendo Switch 2. So if you're an idiot like me who has the unpopular opinion that Mario Kart World isn't the best launch title out there, then you can just play a game like this where it's practically gonna feel like a brand new game when you get it. And best of all, it's free, unlike the other two Zelda games that we're gonna get on the Nintendo Switch 2. But I bring up Echoes of Wisdom, and I guess by extension Scarlet and Violet, because those are games that kind of ran poorly and definitely needed this optimization. And so now you can play them on the Nintendo Switch 2 and treat them like brand new games, actual like functioning games that should have came out that way when they came out initially. Oh lord. All right, but now with that out of the way, let's say that you've already played these games that are getting free performance updates and you don't think it's worth going back to those games to experience those new performance updates. Is the console still worth it for you? In my opinion, I do not think so. And this is where I think Nintendo kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with their recent Nintendo Direct before the Switch 2 Direct. Because in that Direct, they announced a bunch of games that are going to be coming that are confirmed for the Nintendo Switch 1 after 2025 into 2026. And even outside of Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life, we have some heavy hitters like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Pokemon Legends EA that are still going to work on the Nintendo Switch 1. And yeah, sure, they're not going to run as good as their Nintendo Switch 2 counterparts, but if you're video game budgeting and you still want to experience these huge titles, you still can. You still have the option. And especially for Pokemon fans, I imagine that a lot of Pokemon fans for Legends EA are not going to jump the gun on the brand new console if Legends EA is still confirmed for the Nintendo Switch 1. And it's honestly that right there, along with the titles that they announced in 2026 that is still going to work on the Nintendo Switch 1, that I personally think kind of kills any reason to get the Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, the Nintendo Switch 1 did sell 150 million units. Why would you want to get rid of that install base? Like, that would be insane to not support the console still. But because of this, I think it hurts the Nintendo Switch 2 a little bit, because now you really don't need to get it in the first year or even maybe the first half of 2026. And since I know a lot of people are going to bring it up as well, what about the situation in regards to Breath of the Wild launching on the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch at the same time? Well, the obvious difference with that is the fact that the Wii U barely sold any units. So a lot of people could definitely see that as, oh, you know, this is Nintendo giving the Wii U some games before it kind of dies out for the Nintendo Switch to just take over it. But guys, let's not kid ourselves here. 12 million units versus 150 million units. It's not even comparable. It really goes without saying, but more people were able to experience Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch compared to the Wii U. That's just basic math. So anyways, to recap, if you're a Mario Kart guy, yeah, get the console, get the game, get it right away. If you're somebody who hasn't played all the games that are getting free performance updates, then yeah, just get the console and get the game, and you can have a pretty dang fun time from there. And if you're somebody who gets the console for like third parties, then I would probably hold off, though I know a lot of Switch players hate playing Fortnite on their console. So maybe if you really want to spend $450 to play Fortnite and actually have it function, maybe that's worth it to you. And if you're a Pokemon fan, or I guess a Metroid fan as well, you have no reason to get this console. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But if you're still afraid I'm missing out in regards to the Nintendo Switch 2 and what all it can do, do not worry. I will be covering everything this console has to offer in the coming days, weeks, and months. And yeah, that was my epic transition to subscribe, because yeah, I'm going to be covering the Nintendo Switch 2 and you will be forced to hear about it. Jokes aside though, be sure to go in the comments below and tell me if you are planning to get the Nintendo Switch 2 on launch day or not. And if you're not, definitely tell me why you're not doing it. I would love to read your stories. I do genuinely love reading the comments. Stay hydrated, stay cool, and I will see you all in another video. Bye-bye!